Okay, welcome everybody. Do the acknowledgement of country. The Murray Council would like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land, the Ngadjuri, Nawong, Angarathi, Narkat, Narrandjeri and Pyramid peoples of the Mid-Murray lands and waters. It's upon their ancestral lands and waters that the Mid-Murray Council meets and operates. The Council pays respect to elders past and present and the spiritual beliefs that are continuing importance to those First Nations peoples today. Council further acknowledges their contributions and important roles that First Nation peoples continue to play within the community, and we extend that respect to any people in attendance here today. For attendance, we have everyone here. No apologies, apart from Mayor Bailey, who's on leave at the moment.
And excuse me, sorry, Victoria's running.
Councillor Hammond is running 5 minutes late. Should be here shortly. And also like to welcome Paul Grant, who's good Clive's on leave at the moment, so we'll take him over from Clive. Confirmation of people that. Yeah. Got people in the gallery, so the public gallery statement. We welcome visitors to the gallery and ask them to observe the meeting in respectful silence as the Chamber deliberates on matters that relate to the Mid-Murray Council. Council meetings are formal meetings, so subject to specific meeting procedures. This means that there are designated sections of the meeting, e.g. presentations, where members of the public can directly interact in the meeting. For the remainder of the meeting, only providing the public an opportunity to listen to the meeting proceedings in an observer role. Emergency procedures. Should there be a fire or other emergencies, the alarm will sound and you'll be asked to follow the directions of council staff. Council meetings are live streamed through the Mid-Murray Council website. Attendance and participation in the council meeting does not provide any councillors, council employees or members of the public protection from defamation in relation to behaviour or statements made. Individual opinions or statements made during the council meetings are not the opinions or statements of council. A copy of today's agenda is available on the council's website. Members are reminded that if they intend to move, second, speak or ask a question during the meeting, they need to clearly indicate their intention to speak by using the microphone system. It's important that members use their microphones appropriately so those at home can hear clearly. And members are reminded that the use of mobile phones during the meeting is not permitted and ask you to turn your phones off or to silent. We have confirmation of minutes. That the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 17th of February 2026 be taken as read and approved. Declaration of interest. Oh, sorry. All in favour? All against? Okay. Hold on. Declaration of interest. Get on the room. No. This is adjourned. We have Neil. Deputations we have Neil, and petitions we have Neil. So 9.1 monthly financial report, February 2026. The recommendation is that the monthly financial report, February 2026 report on the council agenda of 17th of March 2026 be received. Do we have mover? Councillor Myers. Councillor McKee, seconding that. Any discussion about that?
It was good to see the loan total way down to $1.6 million or thereabouts. Probably won't stay that way for long, but will the rising cost of fuel have an impact on the amounts of borrowed in the future? Like, I mean, how is there a fair margin in the budget for increased fuel costs or not? Thanks.
Through Councillor Davis. Look, obviously we're unsure of what the situation is. We have margins and some breathing space in our budget, but we'll obviously consider that part of the conflict and whether it continues and how long it continues. We have had considerations and discussions on fuel and availability. Obviously, the price is going up, and so depending on where that lies. I know the government's made a decision to use some reserves today to try to help with the shortage. So we'll monitor that and we'll provide feedback to council as we move forward. All you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, quite often these unbudgeted events that happen can be financed through the modest surplus of the original budget. And so, for example, legal fees and increasing fee. There would have to be a report that goes up for a budget review to increase that budget, but that's where it would come from the underlying service.
Yep. Thanks. Or just one more?
Yeah.
We haven't received the rate arrears draft since September, but I'm just wondering how that's going.
We'll take that on notice and ask Rachel to look into that.
Any more questions, discussion? Put that recommendation up. We have a mover.
Yeah.
Oh, we've done that. Sorry. All those in favour? All those against? That is carried. Number 2, writing off rates and debts. Do we want to have a discussion about this one at all, or are we happy to go into it? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. So the recommendation is that the writing off of rates and bad debt reports on the council agenda of 17th March 2026 be received. Council under section 143 of the Local Government Act 1999 authorises the writing off of the following rate debts. As per section 184(14) of the Act, the total vested in the purchase from the sale of land for the non-payment of rates will be free of all mortgages, charges and caveats. Therefore, the following properties that fail to raise sufficient proceeds to offset the outstanding rates at the time of sale are to have the following rate amounts written off. So A 4646 Lot 4, Sturt Highway, Annandale, $14,446.50. A 4783 Lot 2, Sturt Highway, Annandale, $14,437.65. And A 4784 Lot 14, Sturt Highway, Annandale, $14,798.40. As the council has no reasonable prospect of recovering the debt and reasonable attempts have been made to recover the rates from the estate of the property previously leased from the Crown, being A2010 Lot 182 Peldy Road, Pungaloo, that the outstanding rates of $10,219.30 be written off. Do we have a mover for that? The top should be bit. Second. First. We have any discussion about that one?
Council, yeah, wait.
Because you both today.
Anybody else?
Sorry, I did. Yes. So with those amounts here and the previous amount of $67,800 on the end of June last year, does that mean the total bad debts is $120,701? Did I have that? Do I have that right? It's not in the report, but it's sort of.
But it's the 60. Sorry for the chair.
That was the bad debts at the 30th of June last year. That was in the report.
My understanding, Paul might clarify this, but that's been written off. So this is just about this figure here. Is that correct, Paul?
The chair, yes, that is correct. There were 8 properties that were auctioned off under section 184. 3 were the insufficient bad. So that totals 42,000 the write-off. Usually the way it works is they are provided for in a previous year, could be the year prior or prior to that, which means that the profit and loss takes the hit in that particular year.
Mm.
So that means when it comes to write off a bad debt, there is no impact on the profit and loss. It is simply writing down the debt into the provision. So it is the logical end of the process. However, should council receive that money at any time in the future, that entry can be reversed.
Sorry, so the 67,800, that's already been dealt with, that's out the window, that's not included in
That's a provision. So we made a provision for bad debts. And so that's what is in the balance sheet. And now we're saying that we're writing off the $42,000. So it's covered by that provision there in the accounts.
Right.
Thank you. I just have one question. And I think that the report does speak to this, but I just want to understand what isn't a reasonable attempt that has been made to get the fund back, to try and get the funds. I just wanted that to be really clear of what attempts have been made.
Thanks for the question, and through the chair. Usually when there are rates of arrears, there is an escalating procedure that starts with council officers and ends up with collectors. Section 104 is the end of that process where it goes to auction. Now, where there is a shortfall, we would undertake to write that debt off and not go to the person that has purchased it. In one of the cases, there is a Crown lease. There is the passing of the leaseholder. We are going to question the executive trustee as to whether we can get the 10,000 back from that. But it is to be recognised as part of this. So that was why I just brought up previously that if we do receive the cash, then we can reverse that entry.
Thank you.
So we go through our normal process. Council officers try to get it. We escalate it to debt collectors. They try to identify that obviously it's been passing. And as Paul was mentioned, we'll do right and engage with the executor. But we are doubtful.
Yes.
And hence the process. And if we do get it back, we'll send it the bonus form.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you.
Oh, I have one more. Sorry. With the sales of these properties, they're only $5,000 per property of the title of this little section of Annandale. And when the arrears of the rates were so, high, how is it that, I guess, with the auctions, we just had to start at any kind of price, or is there any way you can have a reserve that would at least have covered some of our arrears in the process of the sales of these properties to some degree? I guess that's my question when I saw it. I was like, oh, someone's gotten some nice cheap parcels of land and we're hoping that we'll now get good rates from them. But these accumulated rates that went on for so long had gotten to such a large extent that we could have maybe put reserves on some of these land parcels when they were really long periods of time where they're not paying rates. So the rates are worth more than the actual land value, obviously, if we sit here. I mean, is there any way that we can do that with things like have reserves on these auctions? That's my question.
Through the chair, so we set reserves. So the market decides what the properties are worth. We had independent valuations and they set the valuation for the price, and that helps us set the reserves. Bottom line is the rates were worth more than the properties in the market was willing to pay. So it's better to go through that process, write off the debt, and then hopefully those people will be positive members of the community and pay their rates in the future. And so that's the process. So yeah, absolutely, we set reserves. Unfortunately, the reserves are what it's worth and the rates were worth more than that.
Yes.
Anybody else before Councillor Cotton?
Yeah, no, the comment's really been made already that the upside of this is that they've got new owners and that hopefully they'll do the right thing, especially having seen how they walk on.
And I will say to the chair, that couple was so excited to be able to afford and buy into a community. So hopefully that means they pay the rates.
So all those in favour of that motion? And against? Carried. Item 10.1, infrastructure and field services summary report. Recommendation is that the Summary report on the council agenda on 17th of March 2026 be received. Do we hear from you, Bob? Councillor McGregor. Seconder. Councillor Schultz. In. Councillor Schultz. Yeah.
Me.
Any discussion or questions regarding that item? Yeah.
Yeah, just through the chair. Very good report once again. Lots of detail. There was just one thing with the NHVR applications on page 38. I was just wondering if you could clarify exactly what the NHVR applications are, because it's something about a 4.5 ton load there. I thought that's actually a lot of vehicles that will be over 4.5 tons. So could you clarify, please?
Through the chair, NHVR is the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator. Basically, any vehicle that runs at its normal mass, so a set of trailers 42.5 tonne, if it wants to run at a OS OEM, which is oversized open mass, that becomes a permit for NHVR. If anything wants to run like a road train or a B-double, that it becomes also an NHVR permit process. We issue permits to those, and that the scale there indicates how many permits we've issued. Probably looking at them, the Murray Road is permitting some of those road trains to come through, so we permitted road trains to them, we don't have to do permits. So that becomes a gazetted route.
Anybody else? Councillor Moss.
Question for Dave. There's Department of Infrastructure webcams. Any chance of getting one in Morgan?
Through the chair, I don't know about the inquiry for it.
Oh, be good if we could.
Anyone else?
Thank you. I had one question about the RV dump point, how we've moved it at the Manor Oval. I'm just wondering if it's worth looking at doing some signage about it, because I've been up there a few times, a lot of the caravans come through and then they're pulling right to the side, and it's creating a nice big divot. A nice big divot in the roadway where you enter into the oval. So I was just wondering if it's worth getting some signage to say past the lines or past the RSL and sneak around, but give themselves a bit more room. But yeah, that was all. Only a suggestion.
Through the chair, we can make an assessment on that traversing in that area, but while it's the open surface, it does make it very difficult to align and try to direct traffic, but we can have a look at that.
Any other questions? If not, those in favour? Those against? Carried. 10.2, recommendation to revoke roads, construction and maintenance of privately owned shack access roads policy. The recommendation is the recommendation to revoke roads, construction and maintenance of privately owned shack access roads policy report on the agenda of 17th of March 2026 be received. The roads, construction and maintenance of privately owned shack areas roads policy be revoked. Notification be provided to the community of the revocation of the policy. Do we have a mover for that one? Councillor McGregor, second. I think we've. Any questions or discussion on that one? Councillor Barber?
Yeah, through the chair, I was just wondering how this will affect those communities that do have the private access roads, or how's it going to affect them? This change.
Through the chair, there'll be probably some ramifications from it. Obviously, the past has been that council has contributed towards that, but obviously there's some implications legally for that. So some of the shack owners or shack associations have been aware of this for some time. So we've actually made it quite common knowledge. There will be some other indications like when it's in the report, Cape State Road, that private road, we've been planning it. Unfortunately now we won't be able to do that. But we're looking at a way in regards to the project works policy as to whether there's any other implications, which will be in the event briefing this afternoon. There will be some ramifications from it, but unfortunately we can't go and do the works on private areas.
Any more discussions on that? John?
Just a question, how often in the past has council utilised the council equipment for those private roads?
Through Chair, historically the funding we haven't done a lot of funding in probably our time at council. I think we did a bit of from the previous council resolution. There was some works to a plat which were done, which were part funded, and also some at Brandon Park, which historically was probably 8 years ago. We haven't actually funded any other work on. Sorry, Pelican Point was another roadsheet we did, which was through a council resolution. What we have done in the past is we undertake maintenance grading of some roads, where we do Cape State Road on our normal cycle, we do Pelican Point on our normal cycle, and the other roads don't really take too much maintenance as far as they're already bitumen roads in a lot of the areas. We have had requests for potential 50% costings, and I basically said that the council was going through a sustainable model at the time, so there was no funds available. So there has been a bit of, I suppose, information passed out, but it will become a matter of you need to disseminate the information too.
Anybody else? Any questions on that one? Cool. Okay, all those in favour? All those against? Carried. 10.3, Morgan Living River Festival event. Recommendation is the Morgan Living River Festival report on the council agenda 17th of March 2026 be received. Council notes the proposed event details, road closures and support requirements. Subject to all approvals and accreditations being received prior to the event, council supports the Morgan Living River Festival in the provision of traffic control devices for the portion of road closures, extra contractual service for the cleaning of Morgan Riverfront public toilet, power access usage and waste bin service and disposal. Point 4, council endorses the exclusive use of the Morgan Riverfront, including the Precinct Road corridor, for the holding of the Morgan Living River Festival and supports the Department of Infrastructure and Transport closing river fronting Morgan from the ferry north to adjacent to the Morgan Wharf. Point 5, council endorses the portion of road closure of High Street Morgan from the point adjacent to the sealed road edge access to the ferry north, being the designated unsealed car park and boat ramp area of High Street Road Reserve, with minor access available for emergency vehicles and specific local parking requirements under section 32 of the Road Traffic Act 1961, the closure of roads or related areas for public management purposes. And part 6, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to make minor amendments to council's commitment and support of the festival and consider and action any additional support requested as required. Do we have Councillor Myers, Edward, Councillor Hammond? Discussion, questions about that one?
There's a picky typo that may have already been picked up. In the executive summary on page 80, it says Man and Institute. There's not enough room for that many people. So it's more than, and that's where it's going.
Yeah. That's no good.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, we're waiting on some of the approvals of accreditations. What sort of is a timeline on that? Like the last available timeline that they can present that so that the event can go ahead?
Look, it's always a challenge for the chair with any of our events that we run. Sometimes it's the day before, we're chasing things up. So we have a 3-month, I think it is, in our policy process. Unfortunately, very few people adhere to that. So we've been engaged with the event organiser significantly, and they're aware and they're experienced. So we're confident we'll get all the information. It's just volunteer organisations putting on a significant event like this. So we'll keep working with them. So I can't give you a time frame.
It's a great event, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll keep working with them to make sure that we get the information.
Just through the chair, not having a go at the organisation, just wanted to highlight something we've seen previously is that the event has actually already been advertised prior to the approval coming through council. So, yeah, like I said, we have seen it with other events as well, and people just sort of jumping the gun a bit before they get the approval. Yeah.
It'd be nice if they did the approval process prior, within the 3 months rather than advertising it. Yes, which you're closing debate. So.
Yeah, unless anybody else has got. Just a query with the river closure. There's ferry north, supposed to be from the dockyard.
But Chair, that was the information they provided at the time. So yeah, the river closure would come through DIT anyway. So what we're doing is supporting the river closure. Yeah, not authorising the river closure.
Anyone else? All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Yeah. Are we happy to have a bit of a suspension for this next one? 10 minutes.
That's just a show of hands. 10 minutes.
10 minutes, you think? Okay. You want to go in?
Do you want to advise?
Yeah.
Through the Chair, basically a lot of work's gone into the logistics of the bin system and the proposed rollout. What we've been able to do and ascertain is we've obviously early met with Solo in regards to putting a window into place to produce a certain amount of bins. The bins are just actually undetermined. We've been working with Solo in regards to the costs and putting the logistics in place. What we've actually found, and Paul's got some comments as well, what we've actually found is that there's probably 4 different scenarios that could actually be doing because the change of service. So there's obviously the green bin system, then there's the rural system, and then the expansion of the system and so forth. So as a working group, we looked at there'd probably be about 6,000 odd letters that we had to go out to with 4 versions of those letters to go out to people and to actually then start the consultation process, which could, if the consultation process comes back affirmative of every aspect, we'd be looking at producing probably about 8,500 bins, which is a fairly commercial activity. In regards to finances, I'll pass you over to Paul in regards to some of the finances and the assumptions on the cost, which were indicative at the time. But what we're looking at doing now is, obviously we couldn't meet our time frame in February to get the consultation out. We're still looking at doing a consultation process, but what we're looking at doing is phasing it in, so that we can actually look at expanding the services to Manor Waters and to the fringe regional areas. And we're looking at an assumption that we're only going to be a couple hundred bins for those, so we can actually do an expansion service now, and then still do a rollout service, which meets with the timelines of fitting with the service fee and putting that into the rate status. So
just for the chair, for Paul, well, I suppose the key thing for me is this is one of the most significant things we're going to do as a council. And as part of our process post the last report, we've done some further work, both with the contractor and engaged with other councils and what's worked and not worked. And it's identified to the working group and internally that there was a lot of risks associated with not getting this done properly in the first instance and trying to do it all at once. And so we felt it was prudent to make sure that we get it right and we do it a staged approach, making sure we've got the financials and all of that. We all want to implement this, and that's what the community wants as well. But the feedback and the place that we landed was there was a lot of risk associated if we did rush this. And that's why we've tried to put a pause on it to make sure we implement it. There's a commitment to getting it done. We want it done as timely as possible because there is an absolute desire from the community for us to do this. But we don't want to make a mistake. And then, finding out it could potentially be 8,000 bins. So all those got to be able to produce those bins and that. So that's probably the context, and there's some more financial data we want to make sure, because we don't want to go out with anything that's not accurate, because in the past we've done that with swims, not that we thought it was not accurate, and then the figures have changed. And then we've said it's going to cost X, and then it costs more because there's other implications. So I suppose that's just the scene setting. it's not that we don't want to do this and we absolutely want to roll it out. It's making sure we get it right. All
Yeah, thanks a lot. And through the chair, a stage pilot style rollout, for example, say Manor Waters, is a good idea because what we could do is then take the learnings from the smaller suburb to inform the larger rollout event so that we could address the problems on small scale. There is the current thinking that we could save 1,000 tonnes from the red top bin going to landfill. Currently, we've got 4,500 tonnes, that will bring it down to 3,500. Whilst that is really good for the environment, there is no benefit to council from that because we own the landfill. With other councils who don't have a landfill, they would get a saving on the gate fee for that. What that does do is those 1,000 tonnes of mixed, it will be recycled and green, there will be a charge for processing that to council. So that will come at of the order of an extra 100,000. Additionally, with Clive's FCA project, there will be some FCA contributed to this particular waste stream. Excuse me. And one of the quotes we've had, we know that we are currently, for all rural red top bins, we are paying of the order of about 600,000 just for the lift. Now, that's for 52. What has been floated is that that gets dropped to 26. So we had thought that 606 be halved to 303,000 because the lifts went from 52 weeks to 26. Not so. Not so. There was a perceived inefficiency because those red top bins are being picked up every 2 weeks, that they would be twice as full, and therefore the truck would fill with rubbish twice as fast and have to make twice as many trips to Canberra to unload. So there wasn't the saving of 303,000. In fact, the quote came in at about 540,000, which is a saving of 70. So we are being charged for the inefficient pickup process. And that's something that we really need to take to consultation and think about, because there is not the saving by going from 52 to 26. We now have formed a project management style Gantt chart with key deliverables listed and the work packages that are required, those key deliverables, and stop dates, start dates, and contingencies and dependencies. A scope of work has been created, and which is a list of what's in and what's not in. Look, for an example, here's what would not be in. An individual to say yes or no to the green or yellow pickup is either rolled out or it is not rolled out. It is an all or none approach. Stakeholders have been identified, including elected members, communities and others, for example, SMT and also all staff here, along with a communications plan on the best method to communicate with each of those stakeholders and a rhythm and frequency that we could approach. Look, that's about it for the moment. We are still rolling through the numbers. There is also some thinking about the equity of the charge that gets put on the rates notice. Here's what I mean by that. We could average the cost of providing the green bin to the whole of the provision of the waste service, which would mean rural bin holders are contributing to the green bin. What we are thinking at the moment is to bring that out and have those that get the benefit of the green bin being charged a green bin rate, which then means the others, which is the red top and the yellow top, would be standardised across townships and rural. They would get a charge just for those. So the charge would be, yes, I know there's the 50%, 75%, depending on how far it is. But we need to devote a lot of time and come up with something that we could take to consultation on the amount that gets put onto the waste service charge.
Mr. Byrne got about a minute to go, so see if everyone's happy.
Sure.
Just another 5 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Another 5 minutes. Just show of hands.
Yes.
Not sharing.
That's the line.
So when you're saying about the red top bins, like if you went back to 26 and then everybody would fill them up. So what happens under the current situation if everybody's starting filling their bins for 52 weeks of the year? Would that cost us more again? Or are they just relying on people averaging out half full bins?
Because, I'll leave that, I have a question similar to that.
The quote we get from the contract is per unit lift, not per weight. The problem with the weight is that there will be fewer bin lifts on any given straight line drive so that the truck actually fills up quicker.
Yeah.
But that's not in the current 52 process. So 52 has its own lift rate. It's approximately $3, but the 26 lift rate is approximately $5. It's a bit weird.
Because I used to live with a big dude years ago, and he always told me, because I don't put out my red top bin very often at all. A lot of country people don't. I think I put it out maybe once a month. I probably get 12 pickups a year, I reckon, at my place. I was a single person that does the right thing with my other waste. And my neighbour, she's a bigger household. She probably puts hers out maybe once a fortnight. So we're not putting it out every week anyway. But a big man told me that they want to actually pick up a full load to correlate the bin pickup system. It's better than to have an empty bin and putting out an empty bin every week. So I do tell me years ago, don't put out your bin unless it's full. And so I don't put it out unless it's fairly full. And because we're in regional properties and it's not right next to my house, like it would be in urban area, city areas where it's like stinky. It feels like there's not much in there anyway, so I put it out every week, so I don't. And I think a lot of rural people feel that way about it. So it's kind of like we're getting charged for a pickup, or we're being charged for the route they're doing every week. Because they're coming past my house every week to see if it's there, but it ain't there, and they just keep driving. So am I being charged for the idea that they just went down my little driveway and said they were doing a pickup with $3 without the lift, So that's my question.
Paul, you're in your microphone.
For fuel and all of that, if we had it less often, it would make some saving.
No, it's not.
Unfortunately, the way the contracts work, and it's not our contract, this is contract in general, it's about the service charge to the property. Similarly, if you did something with swings, instead of only one person living there flushing the toilet, and you got 15 people there flushing the toilet, still get the same service charge. So you still get the same service charge at the property, whether you utilise that service. So it's available to the property. So if you put your bin out and you're picked up every week, you're paying for it. If you don't put it out, you're still paying for it. So it's a service charge. And there's no way of calculating that if the truck drove around and picked up the bin at $3 and said, I'm picking up 1,000 bins today, but he only picks up 500, you'll charge him $6. So it's too much, I suppose, issues to try to deal with as a contract. So it's a straight flat contract per pickup.
I do feel that what we're getting now, people filling up their bins with mixed stuff, when we start to get the recycling bin and they're doing the right thing by going to the recycling bin, with those waste numbers that we're getting now for in those bins will be heavily reduced because people will all of a sudden be putting their recycling in a recycler as opposed to now they're just putting it all in the co-mingling.
Yeah, I agree with you because I do exactly the same, and I'm in the town. The contents of my red bin, like you, gets maybe put out every 2 to 4 weeks because it's not full. Maybe one bag because I do recycling and all of that stuff. So I know a place like Holdfast Bay have done these trials of photo as well, and they did talk about reducing the size of the red bins to recognise that as well. So that might be an extra cost, but I think there is a factor there that people will not just keep putting everything. Not everybody will keep putting everything into the red bin. It's ridiculous. The green people won't do that. So I think it's good to do a trial from that point of view. But there is evidence for a place like Holdfast Bay, I'm sure, that could be tapped into for that. I think what I'd like to see is a work plan presented to us from the group that's working on this. There's some time frames attached so that we know what's happening. We've got some confidence when we're talking to people who are asking questions already about when it's going to happen.
And to where first.
And I think the idea of user pays has to be carried through. So I tend to agree completely that you don't charge people who aren't getting a bin. That's just not fair at all. Create havoc. I think the lower cost increase is great. I wondered what the service fee and the enhanced recycling service components, what the service fee is and what the enhanced recycling service would be. Yeah. So broadly, I think I'm very encouraged, not disappointed that it's this thorough. I think it's perfect that you're doing this, and I think it's a good idea, and I'm relieved that kind of audit focus is on this, because it's a huge project. We do want to get it going. There's some other councils have had struggles.
And something I will be visible.
Just to check it, we've got 30 seconds to go, but is there more?
Yeah, I will extend that.
Yes.
10? 10 or 5?
Yeah.
Let's say 10,
I feel like everything gets all, yeah.
Is that allowed?
I suppose I'll just make a comment that we can do another briefing on this. So really we're focused on the report as such. And the intent of the report is to say we're not going to meet the consultation timelines because we need to do some further work. And so we're coming back to revoke that part. So I don't want to stifle any discussion, but the intent of the report was just on that perspective.
Hopefully the questions will inform the next report.
10 minutes or 5 minutes now?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
And
We'll do that.
Sorry, can I just have an answer to what I was asking? Sorry.
Ask the question again.
It's about the enhanced recycling service.
And the service fee, what exactly that?
Yeah, basically the townships now are bound by, I suppose, an imaginary line where there's 2 bin system now, which is, I'll just say, for an argument's sake, it's $300, $380 for 2 bins, and it might be $300 1 bin. What we're looking at doing is we already know that service fee. So what we're looking at doing is if we extend that out to the same amount of water as some of the fringe areas, we already know that fee, but the issue will be the bin changeover. So it'll be an amortisation of the bin to change those bins, because those bins, there's a variety of bins out there. They need to now go back to a 140 litre red and a 240 litre recyclable, and then moving the enhanced area. So actually we're introducing it outside the townships to the residential properties, not rural living room, but to the residential focused properties around the town. So that's what we're looking at doing.
So we're looking at the staged approach, and the first focus we're thinking is going to be extending these, to get it to Madam Waters. Let's get 2 bins to Madam Waters, is that right? And maybe 2 bins to the other side of Ballard Avenue. That sort of extension as well? Or just one area to start with?
It will come back to the availability of bins, because basically we haven't had a manufacturer, so we're looking to see what's in stock through NASDAQ, see what we have in stock and see what we can actually produce. So there'll be a bit of I suppose, a planning approach to how we do it. But the demand is coming from the fringe areas and the towns where the road divides the service. So basically we're trying to look at, we map those areas and work out exactly how many properties are affected by that, and then we just need to see whether we can actually produce the bins or get the bins available to then see how we actually put it out, but then also consult on those processes as well.
And then this whole consultation period, are we also going to look at the waste transfer stations?
That's part of the resolution. That's part of the resolution, which is the waste transfer station. So there will be.
We feel, not to get ahead of ourselves, but with increased services, there'll be less demand for waste transfer stations.
Well, we have 10, don't we, waste transfer stations, and all the neighbours have 2, 1. So minimal.
But as we also know, the negativity we receive when we try and reduce one of those, reduce the hours for people as well. So
it's a good idea to say here's the pros, here's the cons, and this is what you get. Again, but there is this payoff that of course you won't need to use so many waste depots.
And the resolution quite clearly states that we see that the Board Council sees there's going to be a reduction in waste transfer services because of the rollout.
And the costs associated, the reduced costs associated with that should be costed in as well, so that we have an idea of where the whole savings, full cost attribution.
And I want to say with greenways being rolled out to regional areas, because at the moment we do see a lot of people doing cultural, burning off and having bonfires and all those things where that kind of, green waste could be doing incredible things for the environment and returning carbon to the soil. And I would love to see us figuring out a way for us to be as a council, creating all this green waste into a way that can be utilised in our community to bring that carbon back to the soils here, as opposed to having it forever trucked off to somewhere else to process, like in a process in the future, not in this term where we are, but I'd like to see that's where our council's going with this kind of stuff. And I'd like to say with the tier rollout, I hope we do think about before we engage the green waste in the townships, that we engage with the recycling as bare minimum to the other areas at the moment that just have the red top, because just living in the red top land, it is just sort of like, you see that's what people are doing and it's so bad for the environment in an area where we should be caring the most for the environment is our regional areas of the country. So, yeah. I'd love to see this tier approach and how we do it. I'd love to see a plan. I want to see a plan how we're going to roll it out and obviously costings and where it goes. But I think we're moving in the right direction, but it's a bigger fish than people.
I don't think there'll be any problem about recycle bins in rural areas. I've had many people ask me, when's council going to do that? And likewise, the green bin in townships and that. Any idea when this further report will come to council? Because I'm thinking, if it's going to be a staged rollout, it'll be started in this term of council and continue into the new councils. So you sort of, if you leave the report back too long,
you won't see it.
We won't even see. The first bit done.
That would be the anticipation for the plan, because basically we're bound by the service fee. The service fee has to be put in for the first rates notice. So obviously we've got consultation, the adaptation of the service fee and the adoption of the service fee. So the process then would be that we don't believe we have the service fee locked down by June, 1 July for the adoption. So the process would then be working into the next financial year and having the rollout, so that we're actually looking at, I suppose the plan would be to be later in the financial year to then actually have the service fee locked down and the anticipated service fee for that year. So it's obviously be incremented. So that means what it is, 27, 28 I think it is. So that you actually got that locked down so people are aware of what the service fee is going to be, and then the bins will be available and the rollout process can be done there. But we're obviously aiming to do the enhancement process now to try to just expand that to actually, I suppose, get rid of the first phase.
So that's to be in our term of.
Yeah, so the first phase of the enhancement project will be, we'll aim to have implemented in this term of council.
Good.
Whether it's rolled out, but it will be all the 60 days, if that's fair.
Yes. We're also getting advice on the service fee, whether it be prorated or not. But the current belief is that it can't be. So obviously we can't put a service fee in that area and then say we're going to introduce something on the calendar year. So if we could do that, then that will actually then speed up the process. But it goes back to the legal advice associated with how the determination of the service fee is, but it's being provided to the property at that time and not prorated throughout the year.
So Dave, I think one of the questions is, so the project plan has been worked up. We can bring that back to council in the next month. Sure, yeah, a project plan perspective, just a plan perspective, I think.
The draft anyway.
Yeah, draft. So we'll endeavour to have a report to April on the project plan timelines. So it's really
Briefing or a report?
probably
Let's do
briefing.
Yeah. Starting.
So April briefing.
I just want to make a couple of comments on some stuff that came up in the discussion regarding the transfer stations. We haven't used our local transfer station for I don't know how many months because it's never open when we're able to access it. It's open an hour and a half a month, and so yeah, we just don't use it because we can't really. And as far as recycling, I for one am really looking forward to that because at the moment we have a section of our property where we stockpile all our recycling until it's worth loading up the car and the trailer and taking it to.
Exactly. We've got a recycling centre we both have in our sheds. What do we do with our sheds? We're recycling sheds. Yeah. Be great. It'll happen.
Anyone else?
Just one last thing I want to say about the audit of the bin things. We had one not that long ago, didn't we? It says in the report that we're going to be getting another audit through this process. It's a more updated, obviously it's been extended out. And that's what that report. But anyway, we'll put in that part of it as well. Yes,
The process of this audit, the audit we undertook months before was a legal bin bit, otherwise foreign bins. So the contractor didn't pick up any foreign bins. That was the audit. What this audit is looking at doing is basically assessing what bins people got, because some people get in the amount of water's got 2 foot of their bins,
Yeah.
some have got 1 foot of their bins, and some of the rural ones are, but they're all green bins. Everything in the southern area is a green bin with a green lid.
Mm-hmm.
So to roll out those, we then need to change the bin lid, but they're already about 10 years old anyway, so then we'll get auditing to find out whether we need to replace those bins.
Yeah.
So that's what this audit is actually looking at.
Thanks.
That's been stuck to.
Okay, yes, that's what I thought as well.
Okay. So the recommendation, point one, the roadside waste. The roadside waste recycling services update report on the council agenda on 17th March 2026 be received. Point two, council receiving part 2 of resolution P01-26/010 for council's meeting of 27th of January 2026. Council supports a revised stage approach to consultation implementation to ensure a sustainable, well-resourced and community-focused outcome for the project. Point 4, council notes that the engagement plan presented to council on 27th of January 2026 will be updated to align with the revised community consultation approach once project readiness is confirmed. Point 5, council notes that the stage rollout of the curbside recycling service will have implications on the timing and structure of the associated recycling service charge, and that a further report will be presented once the financial model and preferred charging approach have been finalised. And point 6, a further report to be provided to council once project logistics, lead considerations and confirmed timeframes have been finalised. Do we have them, Linda? Councillor Farmer. Linda? Councillor Williams. More discussion on this. Councillor Toshing.
I'd just like to see some kind of a timeframe, like 2 monthly reports to council or something built into the recommendation. So just got a time frame on this, even though of course it's going to roll out. But even if we have, bi-monthly updates or something like that, like we've done with other sustainability measures, I think that would be reassuring.
Through the chair, would you be happy with point 6, say a regular report to be provided to council, or would you want 2 monthly report?
Or what do I think?
I reckon the 2 monthly is good because we don't, I feel like that
It's just a
travel house going. It wasn't parties meeting and we just get an update every couple of months or.
A bit like the infrastructure report, but you get your green sections.
Yeah.
Where we're at would be really, really, really helpful.
Advice, then if that's the case, then Jeff, Councillor Barber and Councillor Warhurst, if we change point 6 to 2 monthly report provided to council on project logistics, legal considerations and timeframes. Okay. Or maybe we just change it to a project update, 2 monthly reports be provided to council on project status.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yep.
Check. Barber. Yeah, delete the rest of that, I think. Is it 2 monthly reports to be provided to council on the project status?
They incorporate all that anyway.
So point 6 is now 2 monthly reports to be provided to council on the project status. You happy with that? Councillor? Councillor Warren? Yeah. All those in favour, is there any apart from? All those against? That's carried. So 11.1, open space and public room policy and open space contributions policy. Recommendation point 1, the open space and public room policy and open space contributions policy report on the council agenda of 17th of March 2026 be received. Point 2, council note and receive the submission summary report. Point 3, the open space and public realm policy version 1 and the open space contributions policy version 1 be adopted. And point 4, the CEO or nominee be authorised to make amendments of a minor and or technical nature as part of the finalisation of the open space and public realm policy version 1 and the open space contributions policy version 2. You would have a mover for that one. Councillor Myers, seconder. Councillor Barber, any questions or discussion on that one? Councillor Hammond?
Yeah, thank you. With our submission summary report, I don't see the submission there. We have one very passionate local community member saying a lot of things. And one of the things I just wanted to maybe bring up that they mentioned in that return, obviously it was a lot of the responses it seemed were unrelated necessarily to what we're consulting on. And sometimes I feel like we should have, consulting the community more when they're passionate about open realm and they see something like that. They have opinions about a lot of other things that maybe weren't related to what we were asking, which is unfortunate. But we got some great feedback in other ways. And one of the things and points that were raised was that on our banner page of the Mid-Murray Council, and I'd never noticed that before, that there's some people having a campfire situation under some red gums right by the river, clearly having a fire on like old growth roots of old gums. And that is just an easy, simple, quick fix that we could maybe change so we don't sort of look like we're promoting have an open fire right here on, red gum roots and stuff. And I just felt like, that's an easy fix to sort of make one person feel like their opinion, though not related to necessarily what we're talking about here, was heard. And I wholeheartedly agree with them that we should discourage people having naked fires right on the banks of the River Murray. And I think we should all say, yes, let's not promote that on our site, and we're trying to promote tourism to the region. I'd like that to be maybe considered.
Noted.
Yep. Okay. I just had a question on page 112 in the response from Rachel. It states that the Big Bend boat ramp, there was already funds were previously allocated for this upgrade, but they've not been utilised. I just wanted to confirm if that's true or not true, or just found that a bit interesting to read.
Through the chair, historically, I probably can't comment on what happened with Big Ben. I know that there was obviously opportunities many years ago for other boat ramps. The only dollars we've got actually now is through the flood recovery, and that is only just to remediate the drop-off. So we're looking at working through all the boat ramps, and we've actually appointed two various contractors to the north and south. Yeah. And that's the only repairs we're looking at Big Ben was the flood recovery.
Yeah, it was just interesting to read that, but I figured potentially it is 10 years old or something like that. Thank you.
That's good. Yeah, it's not a lot of dollars. It's probably about $5,000 per site. So not a lot of dollars.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment that Gary, I thought with your engagement process and plan that you'd be quite pleased that 25% of the people who had a look actually downloaded adoption. Correct?
Good strike rate.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? Questions? That one up? All those in favour? All those against? 11.3 community grants timeframes and budget recommendation is the community grants timeframes and budget report on the council agenda of 17th of March 2026 be received. Point 2, council endorses the inclusion of a budget allocation to be determined in the 2026/27 budgetary processes to support the 2026 community grants. Do we have a mover for that one? Councillor Barber, seconded. Councillor Walker. Questions and discussion about that one?
With the consideration of a community benefit fund, when that's set up, would we consider putting this grant into that so forms part of it as council's contribution.
Through the chair, I think that's an option that elected members should consider.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. We hadn't really discussed it in the chair, but something that once that process has gone through and the policy is endorsed, we're doing some consultation on that. Council could consider that process and how they align. I will say one of the concerns that has been mentioned about foundation is council giving direction and then the foundation making the decisions. The community grant process is decided by yourselves. That's just a problem. Councillor,
That
about to make that point.
would not be.
But we can have that conversation.
Just through the chair, yeah, that was my sort of the thought of the amount to be determined. We had 50,000 in last year's budget. We only did that 34,000 worth of grants, and we've been really supporting that. But with the community, also with the community benefit fund, that can be, you know, sort of important in that as well.
One of the
Sorry, having been on the committee, just in response to that, two things really. One is that there were more applications than were to the value of $50,000. Some of the reasons, the main reasons that all that money wasn't spent was because of supply of information questions. So that's one factor. And the other thing is that now that the green energy producers grants are coming online, I'm wondering whether people last year going there instead of coming to this one. So it'll be, that's why I was thinking, you know, a pool because of the competition maybe. Where we go.
Anyone else? No? Okay. All those in favour? Yes. That's carried. Yeah. Do we want to have a short special on this one?
So there's been some questions asked on this report. We welcome Mark to the table. So what kind of time frames? 10 minutes?
Yeah. 10 minutes, yeah.
It's a show of
Show of hands. I'll get so. Kevin? I'll be Kevin.
Yeah. I did at the beginning.
Yeah, so I'll just give context. So Councillor Hammond raised a question yesterday afternoon around greyhounds. And so I'll let her have contact. Mark has got some answers or some information. But yeah, Councillor Hammond, do you want to raise your issue?
Oh, yeah, well, I just feel like, you know, I brought it up in previous years and we talked about these fees, and I'm quite, obviously, we all know I'm passionate about animal welfare and all of those things, and not really believe in rating that kind of personal view. But when it comes to sort of discounting, and when we got this report that said, once again, we sort of talk about what other councils are comparatively doing for working dogs, we often put this idea of a greyhound in there like a working dog. And I mean, they're very, very different things. And I really do see a distinguished difference there of one is, you know, helping Australians have food on their table, and the other one is pretty much taking food off tables in regional areas where gambling is a huge problem. And with the cost of living crisis and all of that, it's only going to get worse in our regional centres, and we've seen it before when there's been depressions. And I just think, you know, it's 2026, we should not be any more discounting greyhounds. I don't know how many there are in our region. I know we're trying to crack down, and DACO, I should say, are cracking down on all the breeders and situations like that. We were saying in this very report about breeders making money off dogs. Should we be giving them any kind of discount? No, not really, because they're making business on the side, a little hustle of their dogs. The same thing could be said for greyhound owners, and they hang on to dogs for a very long period of time, often not in great conditions, kept in runs. I've seen the situation. It's an industry that has been brought into the media many, many times over the years for how those animals are treated. And though there's good people in any industry, and there's bad people in any industry, and I get that, but it's an industry, it's a profitable industry, and I just don't think we should be giving them a discount anymore on their dog rates. I think they should at very least get the standard fee of 45, and a lot of them aren't de-sex dogs, so they're still getting some kind of discount from them having a whole dog. So I think they've raised fast through their whole or whatever. So yeah, I just feel like very passionate about this, and I feel like if we're looking at our fees and rates charges, we make that as a discretionary fee that we put on, not the councils do it. In fact, maybe only a few do. Out of the ones in the state, they don't all give it. I know that much because I did a little bit of Google researching myself, and it's up to us to make that decision, make a stand for our community. And I think when people see those fees and charges, they do see like we're struggling, we're financial, not meeting borders, but then we're going to give discounts and sort of, I think farmers too would think it's very different being a farmer and having a working dog that's, doing a very important job to help the business than what I think greyhounds are and what they represent.
I think the bottom line is that working dogs are essential. That's an essential item. Greyhounds are not essential.
It's like, it really isn't. And I just think, and the reason we do it is maybe, they've got a regulated body system, they've got a regulated body, right? So, and just like a breeder should be going by their regulated breeders association, which I think we've lost a lot of now. There's DATCO and no deny, like people just be breeding mixed breeds within DATCO to have a DATCO registration. But back in the day, there was an actual breeders federation that you have to be with the German Shepherd Club, or you have to be proven with pedigrees. But now all of that's gone out of the wayside with the DATCO registration stuff. So we're not really seeing a monitoring body of how we're breeding animals. And I think we're lumped with a lot of our responsibility here as council. It all falls onto us a little bit with dog registration, and I think it could just lead by example for our community. That's my rant off the soapbox.
I agree, and I think with the female greyhounds as well, they're basically just having litter after litter to find the puppies that are going to make money for the owners, is my personal view. Nobody takes offence at that, but that's what my view is. So, yeah, I agree with
Maybe, Mark, do you want to, you've done some research, got some, I don't know some information, I'm happy to respond to through the chair. So, quick easy ones. How many we've got at council area? 22. So that's over 4, 6, 7, 1, 4. So 5 owners, trainers. Of that, I've got a breakdown of the sex of the dogs, so in relation to the male or female. The reason that councils have the traditional reason that councils had a reduced fee for registered greyhound racing SA dogs is because all dogs over the age of 3 months have to be registered. With a registered racing greyhound, they do not get any service from council. Being you can't walk it out in public without a muzzle on. There are, for all intents and purposes, like a working dog, they're a tool. They're not a pet, generally speaking. They are doing that. So I agree with that. The owners are making a profit from them. Potentially, that's what their aim is. You can't take a greyhound to a dog park and have it off leash anywhere. So the rebates or the discount was always provided because you have to have it registered. But chances are, and my experience is, you're never going to have involvement as an authorised person with a registered racing greyhound unless you're going out doing a kennel inspection. So that's why it's there. Certainly have looked at each year when doing the registration fee setting, reducing the rebate or increasing the fee across for the dogs that we have, because I agree that it's there is the potential that they're making money from it, like breeders. So why should there be a discount rebate? For this report, I did have consideration for removing it completely. However, prior to doing it, so they would be paying whatever the relevant fee is, most of them would be a non-standard dog because they wouldn't be D6, but they have to be microchipped. So there'd be an air. So it would be sitting at the currently $86, or if the owner had a pension concession, it would be at the 50% rebate. That's $43. I want to do some communication with the small number of breeders that we've got, but they have been breeders for quite a period of time. So having that discussion with them before going, you're paying $30, but now you're paying 86. So this is why you're going through that process. So I didn't include anything in this current report with a line saying, I looked at the greyhound fee, but discounted for this point in time. Could have put in there. So acknowledge that and know that what your feelings are regarding that, Councillor, because in previous councils, with low numbers, I had removed that fee due to low numbers of dogs registered within the area. Going to what the fees are, so I've got did a quick breakdown of what fees are charged across the state for a
registered racing greyhound, because if it's a greyhound through GAP, so greyhounds as pets, it's just a normal dog. Whilst it's a greyhound breed, there's been some changes with not having to have a muzzle requirement once they go through the GAP process, and all these things. So those dogs are just, they're dogs. They're not, even though they're a greyhound, they're not registered as a greyhound. So that's a designation that only can be done by GRSA, Greyhound Racing SA. So we can't have someone come in and say, one's a racing greyhound, I want to get the cheaper fee. If it's not with that body, they don't get that fee. So
if anything, I'd like to say, if when you rescue a greyhound, you should be getting a discounted fee for giving an older dog a better period of life than taking on a puppy. And that if you're, I don't know, I just feel like with the idea of access to dog parks and stuff, like, I know a lot of regional people have such big properties, they're not necessarily accessing outside dog parks anyway.
I was going to say that as a person living in a rural area, I'm not utilising any council facilities like that. Council's not attending to my dog.
No.
Because I am. But it's one of those things, so there's the opportunity is there should a normal dog owner have it. In relation to the fees, like we've got quite a number of smaller councils. I haven't got the breakdown of how many dogs are registered per each area. District Council Loxton Wakery, $7.50. Go to the other end of it, City of Charleston, $116. So I think that correlates with their non-standard dog fee. So certainly we could increase it. And
when I saw discounts, I often saw 45 at the standard dog fee. When I looked around at like different city councils that did offer it, the one that did my research on, a lot of them were, if they were discounting it, there was a mix really, really cheap, obviously, for the really outer areas where all of their rates for registration were that cheap, because the council sets all their prices. So it's not just the others.
I think on the average, it would be the average price. Obviously, the City of Charleston throws it right out, and City of West Torrens, there's 100 and 116. Everything else, the top end of it goes at 58, and then, as I said, the bottom end is that's part year, that's part year, $7.50. So I think the average price went out at about $20. So I have incrementally been increasing up more and more and more. As I said, consideration was given that I increase it further. But happy for elected members to.
So we've got comments. We want to extend that. And I would say to the council, I have a proposal, is that the fee in the table gets increased, which Carol can bring up to $45 from $31.50. Sorry, the rebate. No, that would be the rebate. That would be the price.
The price, that's the price.
Yeah,
so for that to go up to $45, and for a report maybe to come back to council, but my motion would be for a report to come back to council, but would then sort of with the idea that we could eventually abolish this discount altogether. We're only talking about 22 dogs. It's not a huge member of our community, so I feel like it's not like it's going to have huge lasting effects on the industry here. But it's all about getting it all together, the discount all together. That would be my ideal. But at least raising it up to the standard dog fee. But it's not like we're giving them the same as, well, it's very similar to what we're giving the working dogs. That's right next to each other on the list.
Can I just ask a sort of side question?
Do we want another 5 minutes? Actually, keep the things here.
Thank you. Sorry, just a side question. Do they have to register puppies? If they say they have a litter and they sell the puppies under 3 months, do we know anything about that?
Should we? Yes. So
they could be making a lot of money.
There's the potential for anyone to be doing that. They're a heavily regulated body due to issues that have been identified not only in South Australia. So if the litter is, if they're breeding from them and pushing them out, that is supposed to be in Dogs and Cats Online. How that occurs, like we don't know what we don't know. But they're treated exactly the same as any dog owner. Being over 3 months, must be registered, or being sold has to be microchipped. So the information is difficulty at the moment having accurate information is Dogs and Cats Online is down to only access is RSPCA, Dog and Cat Management Board and councils due to maintenance on the system. So there wouldn't be like the last 6 months since it's been, or 4 months it's been down, but there's a lot of dogs out there. But yeah, they are supposed to be in the system. We know that we're getting a few slipping through the cracks, but as for breeders, we don't have breeders in the area. We've only got trainers, owners of trainers. So I do know from that side of things. And when queries are raised, and I'll push them through to compliance section of Greyhound Racing SA, that is investigated. So we have had something passed.
a lot of people's thoughts. So, Carol, you want to, I might have got this wrong, Mark, just interpreting what Councillor Hammond was saying. So that figure there is the rebate figure?
That's the registration fee.
That's the cost, yeah.
Yeah, change that to 45 is what you're suggesting.
Still a discount.
What are figures? And obviously, everyone can move that as a motion, but if there's general consensus that people support it, then
about further report being brought back to council. I think in terms of process.
They didn't go ahead.
Comes back every year. So
Yeah, I'll consider it.
Yeah,
I would have that as a significant part of the next year's report. Because
maybe not 4,531.
Maybe not.
Sorry.
Just on that, if we do increase to 45 per dog per year, it may encourage the owners, trainers to hang on to the dogs longer rather than turf them out because they're not performing straight away. You know, it may, you know, leave them there.
one of the things that I have found that not here at Adelaide Hills Council, a little bit at Privy Council, that councils used to do a business registration fee where you would they had to agree as well, like you might have a license as such for 20 dogs if there's a turnover of dogs. And historically, there were with greyhound trainers a lot of turnover. If they're not training, running here, they're going elsewhere. So they would be paying a X fee for X number of dogs. So it might equate to you're allowed to have 10 dogs, you're paying the full fee, so $160. Those dogs might be different throughout the year as long as you don't exceed that number. So that was one of the things that they had in there as well.
But when do you start counting them? When they're 3 months old?
Yep. Yeah, so and the process, that's all changed. Like you can't have the business involving dogs process says the provision out of the Dog Account Management Act has been removed. So every individual dog has to be registered. We still grant approvals for people if they want to have exceed the numbers, but we need to know every single dog. And 3 months of age, it is now a dog. Still getting puppy feed, stuff like that, but it is, for all intents and purposes, needs to be on the books. Breeders, they need to put them on there as soon as they're microchipped and before they sell them. So they're in a limbo system, but they're all still supposed to be in there.
And like a greyhound's not getting raised until about 10 months, 12 months anyway. Like, you know, even if they might be registered at that time, they're not being raised until they're an older animal. So
Yeah, I believe so. Not,
yeah.
I believe that.
Okay, so
Okay, that's all good. Okay, 20 seconds. They're talking about dogs that are only registered for greyhound racing. Yeah, so you could still own a greyhound.
Yep, you pay whatever.
Everyone wants
Once they're out of the system, they're
saved. Yeah, well, it's not saved, but
Yes.
rehomed.
rehomed at that time.
all right, so we'll go back into meeting. So what happens? Do we change it?
Well, I think in consensus, I would recommend
I guess I think that motion.
Councillor Hammond moves the motion with that change of fee there. Are you sure?
So-
Yeah, the motion.
Yeah, already had a motion. So the recommendation in part one, the dog registration fees for 2026-27 report on the council agenda of 17th of March 2026 be received. Point two, the following schedule of dog registration fees for 2026-27 financial year be adopted and included in council register of fees and charges. I won't read them out. They're all there. But we are obviously looking at writing out.
So it's just changing, you just come up straight, Darryl, just make sure you see that change to 45.
Greyhound registered with Greyhound Racing South Australia, 31.50 to 45. Moved by Councillor Hammond. Do we have a second of that one? Councillor McGregor? Any more discussion? Thinking no. All those in favour? Vote against. That is carried.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. (12.1) Ombudsman SA conflict of interest obligations for elected members. The recommendation is the Ombudsman of a conflict of interest obligation elected members report on the council agenda of 17th of March 2026 be received and noted. We'll move for that one. Councillor Barber, second Councillor Walker. Any discussion on that one, anybody? If not, all those in favour? And against? That is carried. Yeah. 12.2 Remuneration Tribunal review of allowances for members of local government councils. Recommendation is point 1, the Remuneration Tribunal review of allowances for members of local government councils report on the council agenda of 17th March 2026 be received. And point 2, the Mayor or the person acting in the role of the Mayor and Chief Executive Officer be authorised to provide a submission to the Remuneration Tribunal as part of the review of allowances for members of local government councils in accordance with submission guidelines, taking into consideration comments provided by elected members. Do we have a mover for that one? It was. So we'll Councillor Mike. Maybe Councillor Schultz. We have discussion or questions about this one. If not, all those in favour? All those against? That's carried.
I'll let you know next time.
Right.
And 12.3, remuneration tribunal review of minimum and maximum remuneration for local government CEOs. The recommendation is part 1, the remuneration tribunal review of minimum and maximum remuneration for local government CEO. Report on the council agenda 17th March 2026 be received. Council part 2, council authorises the Mayor or the person acting in the role of the Mayor to finalise the development of a submission for lodgement prior to the closing date to the Remuneration Tribunal of South Australia in relation to its review of Determination 3 of 2025 minimum and maximum remuneration for local government CEOs, taking into consideration comments provided by elected members. Part 3, given a subject matter, external resource be engaged to support council submission as and if required within council's existing budgets. And point 4, the final submission lodged will be presented to the 21st of April 2026 meeting of council for information. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Barber, seconded. Councillor Hammond. Any discussion or questions regarding that item? Councillor Barber.
Nobody else? Nobody else?
Yeah, anybody else before Councillor Barber? No, Councillor Barber.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that we've had discussions with the CEO Performance Review Committee about the bans that have been put forward, and my comment is under the current system, we would have trouble maintaining our current CEO and also have trouble potentially recruiting a new CEO moving forward under the current system that they've got in place. So I think it's quite important that a submission be made on behalf of their council.
Anybody else? Discussion? All those in favour? Any against?
No, just that's done. Sorry, just really important to get feedback. Just inform both submissions. So the dates there for elected members' comments for 12.2 was 7th of April, with the deadline for submissions 16th of April, and then for 12.3, and comments by March 30, for a submission by 12th of April 26. But that also allows information to go to the LGA as well. So obviously your comments will inform that submission for the people doing those. So please, if you can, if you have comments, that'd be appreciated by those comments.
12.4, Destination Riverland Funding Request. So the recommendation is part 1, the Destination Riverland Funding Request report on the council agenda be of 17th of March 2026 be received. Part 2, council agrees to a 1-year extension of the investment in Destination Riverland for the 2025-26 financial year of $15,000, being Mid-Mary Council's operational and marketing proportion per annum towards funding Destination Riverland. And Part 3, council further considers its ongoing investment in Destination Riverland and the request to provide funding for the duration of the business case 2025 to 2028. Once the recommendations and the impact of the South Australian Tourism Commission's Regional Tourism Review are implemented. We have moved up the time. Councillor Lyons, seconder, Councillor McGregor. Any questions or discussion about that one? Yes.
Just really, I think it is important to only sort of do a cultural month until we can see what benefit is, like the true benefit for the top part of our council region. Yeah.
Anybody else got any questions? If not, all those in favour and against, that is carried. .5 policy review recommendation. Part 1, the policy review report on the council agenda of 17th March 2026 be received. Part 2, the proposed in principle support policy version 2 be endorsed. Part 3, the proposed questions of notice policy version 2 be endorsed. And Part 4, the CEO be authorised to make amendments of a minor and or technical nature as part of the finalisation of the in-principle support policy and questions of notice policy. We have got me for that one. Councillor Thompson-McPeak, Councillor Woodhead, seconding that. Any questions or discussion on that one? If not, all those in favour and against, one's carried. Chief Executive Officer's monthly report. The recommendation is that the Chief Executive Officer's monthly report on the council agenda of 17th March 2026 be received. We have that mover, Councillor Moorhead. Seconder, Councillor Barber. Any questions of that one? Councillor Thompson-McPeak.
Just a quick question on the conversations with the rowing club and about the PA systems. Is there any update on that? I see that you had somebody had a meeting.
I didn't have a meeting, well.
Yeah. Did you send me? Did I miss it? Am I wrong?
It's not on my report.
278
I can comment. I didn't meet with the road club, but I know that Clive, Director of Finance, has.
Yeah.
And so there's been some conversations on that and discussion, but I'm not able to give detail of this, but we can provide an update.
Yeah.
On that. Well, I thought I missed something. I was on leave for what period of time. Sorry.
Any more questions on that one? Yes, Councillor Barber.
Yeah, you've been a bit slack this month, Ben.
I'm on this.
Ben. I'll take it on those.
There's nothing else. All those in favour and against, it's carried. 12.7 motion action list. Recommendation is that the motion action list report on the council agenda of 17th March 2026 be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Barber, seconder, Councillor McGregor. Any questions or discussions on that one?
Nobody else. If nobody else.
Yeah, nobody else. We'll talk it now.
Just through the chair, just had a question. The David Shearer implements has obviously been an ongoing issue for quite some time. I'm just wondering what condition are they in and how much have they deteriorated to the delay that's been ongoing?
Through the chair, Paul. and they haven't deteriorated any more than they already were. They're not in great condition. Yeah. And yeah, so the status quo is standing because of the status of the land. But yeah, there's been no deterioration because they've been on the weather for many years. Yeah. And just to the chair, I mean, there was a comment in that one about Clive and that, so we'll give you an update on that. We won't make things up. Someone had met with them.
Yes. Anybody else? If not, all those in favour and against. Carried. 4.8, expiration of audit committee exemption, regional subsidiary. Recommendation is number 1, the expiration of audit committee exemption, regional subsidiary subsidiaries report on the Council agenda 17th of March 2026 be received. Point 2, pursuant to Regulation 18(1) of the Local Government Financial Management Regulations 2011 at the Constituent Council of the Murrayland and Riverland Local Government Association. Mid-Murray Council supports the MRLGA seeking exemption from the Minister of Local Government for the need to establish an audit committee. Part 3, the Council support for this arrangement is subject to 3.1. The MRLGA board has in place relevant internal control policies and procedures, and these are periodically reviewed and updated. 3.2, the MRLGA board's external audit providing an audit opinion that its external controls are sufficient to provide a reasonable assurance that its financial transactions are being conducted properly and lawfully. 3.3, all reports by the auditor are and will continue to be circulated to each constituent council, i.e. by way of the annual report and at a board meeting. 3.4, no evidence comes to light which strongly suggests that the MRLGA board is not complying with its obligations under the Local Government Act 1999 and associated regulations in all material respects. 3.5, the value of assets owned by the MRLGA board does not appear unduly high for one exempt from the audit committee requirements. 3.6, the level of annual operating expenses of the MRLGA board does not appear unduly high for one exempt to audit committee requirements. 3.7, the predominant source of income of the MRLGA board does not involve rates or charges levied directly on council ratepayers. 4, the MRLGA be advised of council's resolution. And 5, if an exemption is granted, the CEO ensures that the minister's written notice given under Regulation 18 of the Local Government Financial Management Regulations 2011 is published on council's website. Do we have a member? That's Barbara. Seconding Councillor McGregor. Do we have any questions or comments about that one? No? If not, we'll put that one up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Very long. 14.1, minutes of the Dark Sky Committee meeting held on the 24th of February 2026. The recommendation is that the minutes of the Dark Sky Committee meeting held on the 24th of February 2026 report on the Council agenda of 17th of March 2026 be received. And part 2, the minutes of the Dark Sky Committee meeting held on the 24th of February 2026 be received. Here we have a member, Councillor Schultz, and second, Councillor Hammond. Anyone want to speak on that motion? No, if not, all those in favour and against, that is carried. (14.2) Minutes of the Mid-Murray Heritage and Maritime Committee meeting held on the 26th of February 2026. Recommendation is that the minutes of the Mid-Murray Heritage and Maritime Committee meeting held on the 26th of February 2026, report on the Council agenda of 17th of March 2026 be received, and that the minutes of the Mid-Murray Heritage and Maritime Committee meeting held on the 26th of February 2026 be received. Do we have the member, Councillor Thompson here? Seconder, Councillor Barber, any discussion or comments regarding that item? If not, all those in favour and against, that is carried. 15.1, Mayor's monthly report. The recommendation is that the Mayor's monthly report on the council agenda 17th of March 2026 be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Barber, second, Councillor Myers. Any questions or comments regarding that item? Councillor Barber? General government,
I just want to make a comment, well done to Councillor Warhurst and Councillor Davis for putting in the role of Mayor in Marion's absence.
all those in favour? All those in favour? All those against? Let's go.
Yeah.
I knew it down. Okay. 16.1, elected members monthly report. Recommendation is that the elected members monthly report on the council agenda 17th of March 2026 be received. Do we have a mover? Seconded, Councillor Warhurst. Any questions or comments regarding that point? Councillor Cushman.
Just an amendment to mine. I wasn't able to make the Madam Mag AGM after all.
Seventeen, we have no motions, there's no.
With motion.
Oh, I did put it up. Sorry, no. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Sorry. 17, we don't have any motions with notice, nil. 18, questions with notice, we have nil. 19, questions with that notice. Do we have any questions with that notice for Councillor Shaw?
I've been a bit remiss in asking this question earlier. Have there been any further progress made on signage for reserves? And I'm asking this because one of the submissions in an earlier item mentioned John Christian Reserve, and I inspected that in the first year of this term, and it's still same as it was.
We'll take that notice, that question on notice and provide a response.
Thank you.
Any question? Please. Brenda?
Just through there, Chair. Just wondering, we have the president and the acting CEO of the LGA here to present his mission. Have we had any follow-up from that, or are we required to do any follow-up from that meeting?
I need to check exactly what the outcomes were. So, no, we haven't had that, but I'll come back to you and exactly what for the next steps. Yeah, so,
Confidence?
yeah, I just need to change that to say, acting director of corporate and financial services.
Okay.
On there.
Doing what?
You've got that? Yeah, so we expect someone to move us into conference.
Councillor Barber? Oops. I didn't get that. Councillor Morgan? Anyone, next meeting to be held on Madam Council Chambers, Adelaide Road, Madam, at 9:30 AM on Tuesday, 21st of April 2026, and 22 meeting is closed.